Howdy y'all, Shannon here, Creative Chaos in Tennessee, and today we are back for another Scraps to Embellishments hop, and today we are doing mixed media tags. Now, I was a little unsure on what I was going to do on this one, but I kept playing until I found something that I liked, and I ended up coming up with these, and I don't know how well they actually show up, but these have lots of different techniques on them. All of them are different, of course. But I love how they turned out. So, I'm going to show you guys. Of course, they still have to stay flat, so they are mostly flat. I did add a little bit of foam that was kind of low rise, so. And if you're going to tie a knot, you should probably just tape it to the back of your tag. But I rolled these up and they are pretty much, I mean, it's still pretty flat. Because I didn't tie a knot. I just kind of put the strings together but didn't actually form a knot. So, this is what we're working towards creating today. I'm going to show y'all a few things that I've used. You can do mixed media in so many different ways. You totally don't have to have all the fancy sprays and the texture paste and all of those things. You can mix it up and do all kinds of things. You can add pattern paper. You can emboss. You could use your ink, your stamps. The sky is the limit whenever it comes to mixed media. But I just wanted to show this and how I came up with it. So, I have recently found this. I took a class, and she recommended the mixed media paper. Now, I picked this up at Walmart, and it's fairly cheap. I think $8, and you get 20 sheets, and it's 9 by 12. And then I also normally use this watercolor paper. Y'all know when I do mixed media, I like to use it because it holds up to water really good. You don't have to have either one of these by any means. You could totally just use regular cardstock and create your piece. But if you're going to add a lot of liquid, sprays, inks with water, whatever, you need to use something that's a little heavier to hold up. So, this is just a cheap one. You can get this one at Walmart also. You can also get it at Dollar General. You can get it at like Five Below. Of course on Amazon, but I found that it's, I mean, this is, you know, $5 in the store. So I like this, and you get 30 sheets. And like I said, this one is new to me. It's mixed media, and the only difference I have found with it is that it has a really fine surface, like a smooth surface. So if you're doing like stamping, I don't know if it'll even show up on camera, but the difference between these, yeah, it don't really show up. But this one has a very textured, you can kind of see it there. The watercolor kind of has a textured surface, and the mixed media still holds up with a lot of water and inks and things, but it has a smooth surface, so it's way better for like stamping out images so that you get a good clear imprint and all that. So I just wanted to show you guys those. I am going to use my heat gun. This video might be a little longer because this one's time consuming. I may fast forward some parts of this video just for like drying time, things like that. So, I picked the stamps I wanted to use. I wanted to do something fall, as you can tell. I wanted to do something fall. So, I picked these stamp sets. These are old. Well, this one's not. This one's really old. This is an old Close to My Heart stamp set called Autumn Splendor, and I used the leaves from it. And then this one is Enjoy These Moments, which was a stamp of the month from Close to My Heart. And I used the sentiments from it. And then I pulled this one. This one's a Temu stamp. It has ink on it. But it's just music notes. I just wanted to give it something for the background. Because, you know, the leaves falling kind of is, you know, music. if you take the time to listen. I love fall. It's my favorite time of year. So what I did was I took my sheet of paper and I cut it down. I cut it into 6 because it's 9 by 12. And then I cut on 3. So they're 3 by 6 for my tags. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, so I'm going to move this over because this is going to get messy. I do have a stencil. I couldn't find the one I used on those, so I'm going to use this one. It's just a Temu stencil, the brick wall. Y'all saw me use it. You need some Versamark. I have this intense black ink that doesn't run. And I have my stamps. I have my ground espresso distress oxide. I have gold embossing powder, and I have clear embossing powder. And then I have a couple of sprays here that I'm using for my color. I found this color by accident. I was actually trying to work on something Christmassy, but then the colors blended and it looked like fall to me. So I'm like, okay, we're going with that. I also have texture paste. Well, this one's modeling paste, but it's almost to the end. I'll probably finish using it up. Also, to decorate the front of my tags, I did use some dies that I have, and I just run scraps through and created these little fall embellishments to decorate the front of my tags. So, I'm going to lay that to the side. Alright, so first off, what I did was I took my tag and I stamped in Versamark. Oh, and I wanted to say, you don't have to do texture paste. You don't have to emboss any of those things if you don't want to. You could also stamp first. I just stamped some of the music notes on this and run it through an embossing folder, which this one's messed up, but and it tore it because my embossing folder's messed up. But you could totally get a look, and then you could add your sprays, your decorations, and you're done. And it's pretty much a flat tag. So I just wanted to show that also. I'll put this one over here to work on too. So pretty much what I did was, this one has ink already on it. I went through and I stamped first with these stamps. This is just from that stamp set. I just laid them out on my block. I have my dirty Versamark pad because I don't clean my stamps very often. I did buy a new clean one, y'all. You should be so proud. And I'm trying to keep it pristine. We'll see how long that lasts. But I just put it on here, and then I just pretty much stamped. I do have my mixed media mat down. This is just a silicone mat from scrapbook.com, and I meant to lay this underneath here when I stamp so I would get a good impression, but that's okay. We'll just hope for the best. The fun part about mixed media is you just get to play, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So let me grab a paper, and I'm going to dump my embossing powder on here. And I have to say, a lot of this figuring it out just came by playing around with stuff and figuring out what I wanted to do, what I liked, what I didn't. You can see I didn't get a super great impression, but that's okay. It's going to be fine. We're going to be covering stuff up. Okay, I'm dumping that back in, and I'm going to close it so I don't spill it. And then I am going to use my heat gun and emboss. Okay, don't stick your finger in it while it's hot. Alright, so then I am going to add my texture paste to this. Like I said, I'm right at the end of it. So this one's going to be it. And I don't want to cover every little square inch. Just make it random where you're putting it. I just want to use all this up. That's pretty much the end of it. It only took me over a year to use that up. I did add water to it a little bit one time because it takes and gets dried up. Okay, so you can see that we have our stenciling on there now. So then you have to let it dry. So what I did was, I'm going to wipe this off of here. What I did was I took my clear embossing powder and I sprinkled it on here. Get my paper back. While this was still wet so that it would hold it, so that, and it's not going to do every little thing, but so that whenever we start adding color, it takes and resists some of it so that you still have some white area. This one's a lot more stencil than the other one I did, because the other one I just did like a little, oops, that ain't even open. It just has little dashes on it, the stencil, the other stencil I used. I have a mess right now. None of y'all ever believe me, but truly, there's a mess all around my desk. So whenever you heat embossing powder, texture paste, it does tend to puff up a little bit. So if you don't want it to puff up, then don't do this step. But I like it because it adds a little more texture. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to let this emboss all of this again. Okay. Now, as you can see, it has made it shiny because I used the clear. You could totally use a different color. Like I said, you could totally skip this. Let's see if I can show y'all like how much dimension that it adds. But look how pretty it's coming along. Okay, so then next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my colors. So, I'm going to move all this out of the way. We'll add color to this one. Now, this is just one of the little cooling racks from the Dollar Tree, and I got this tip from someone else online. And I absolutely love it because when you spray, it falls through, and when you're drying it, if you use your heat gun, it lets it get dry on both sides and not hold the moisture on one side where it's laying on the table. So this works great. So I'm mixing Festive Berries, Mowed Lawn, Ground Espresso. These are just homemade sprays that I learned how to make online using my Distress Oxide re-inkers. And then I have Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide. I also have this gloss, the white Dina Wakley gloss spray that I just use to just add white splatters at the end. But these need to be shook up really good so that you don't have any of the stuff left on the bottom, so that it's all mixed up really good. Okay, now that all that's done really good. I'm going to start with my Distress Oxide spray. And I'm just going to spray some on here. Just randomly. And then I'm going to go back in. I'm going to add my gathered twigs. Isn't that pretty? It looks like fall. See how where it's embossed, like it's resisting it? So then what I usually do is I'm going to add a little bit of this one just because it's a little bit darker. And it causes a different effect. And then I'm going to heat this and dry it before I add green. All right. So I do want to say, if you're using Distress Oxides versus Distress Ink, you can see I stamped on this one, but it doesn't show up very good. If I rub some of it off, it does, because when you use Distress Oxide, which that's all I have, it causes the milky effect look, and so you can't see, really good the stamping you do. That's why on these I've been stamping at the end. So now that I have that done, I'm going to add in some green. My bottle doesn't want to spray. Okay, so that's mostly dry. Now, for the magic of Distress Oxides, if you're using them, you know they react with water. So, I just have water in a bottle. I like to squirt it in my hand and get a bunch, and then I just drop it down. And you can see that it starts bringing the colors out and makes them more vibrant. Okay, and then I'm going to dry again, leaving the water drops on there so that it'll give some of that vibrance. Okay, now that that's done, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add water again, a few drops here and there. And then I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm just going to pull it up so that it has the little drop effect. And I know it's probably hard to see, but it gives it so much texture in what you're doing. So then you're left with this mess. And usually what I end up doing is, if I have any extra tags just laying around, I will just add a little more water to this. You can make so many tags with just a few supplies because it goes so far, and I just dab it down. Look how pretty. And of course, if you dry it in between, you're going to get a different effect. Okay, so there's that, and then you just do it again and see the effect. You get so many different looks. That's why each tag is different. There's lots of other techniques you can do also. This is just, you know, how I like to play. And you could totally keep going with that. You could add a little bit of green. and dry, and then you can keep dipping and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside. That was just to show you guys what I'm talking about. So, like I said, you can keep going. What I did do to mat up this is I did the same thing. I took a sheet of the watercolor paper since it had more texture, and I just laid it down and I sprayed, and then I kept, this one's done and dry. That's just going to be my backer, but you could totally just use a piece of cardstock, keep it easy and simple. I hate to waste ink. You could totally take a 12 by 12 cardstock paper and dip it in that if you wanted, and you would have a really pretty fall background to start with. So that's just general. Okay, so then I'm going to take my stamp. I'll lay this back over here. And I'm just going to dip it into my main ink that I moved and can't find. Okay, my Intense Black. And like I said, you could do these steps first. It's really up to you and what you want to do. And I just like to touch it down in a few places. On this one, it's probably not going to show up very well just because this one's embossed a lot more than my other ones were. But you can totally go back and do it over top of this one. Now, you're not going to get a super great stamped impression because it is textured. But you can kind of see, well, I don't know if you can kind of see, but you can still kind of see it. So, that's going to be that. And this is the tag part done that I told y'all. So then all I did was, and you can see this mixed media paper is held up really, really well to all the water and abuse I've inflicted on it. And I'm going to wipe that up. And all I did was take my corner rounder, and you could totally leave it like it is. You could cut it in any shape you wanted. You could die cut out of this now that you've created this if you wanted to. It'd be pretty to do a whole sheet of this and just like die cut some fall leaves, and they would have textures and different colors on them. But so then the next thing I did was I stamped out my sentiment for my tag, and what I did was I just stamped it with Versamark, and I'm going to put this down to stamp on to give me a little cushion since I don't have my other mat out. But I just stamped in this, and I embossed in gold. And I just used up scrap papers and all that. And then I'm going to put my gold on. Like I said, this is time consuming to do all of this, and you definitely don't have to, but you get such unique looks. If you have a favorite stamp set that's just, you know, basic, like the leaves are kind of a basic shape type thing, and then get something else that's finer, like a print or a circle, or use a stencil or something like that, you get amazing results, and you can make a whole little slew of embellishments in no time at all. Okay, so I'm going to emboss this. Okay. And it says, autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go. And then I'm just going to trim this down. And like I said, I just used a piece of this, and all I did was mat it up roughly the size I needed. And I just stuck this in my banner thing. You could totally banner the ends of it yourself if you wanted. Matted it up on here, and then voila. On some of them that was short, if I had a short paper, I took the punched out end like this to make an arrow to put on it. But you have to keep in mind that it can only be so wide to mail in the regular business envelope. So you have to keep that in mind. I think it's 4 by, I think 7. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Oh, the other thing I did was I took my dauber and my Distress Oxide and I went around and I inked up all these edges. Just to help it blend in. I'm going to pull this off. Look at that. That looks cool too. It has that bright yellow. You could totally do that on your paper because all it's doing is ripping your paper. You could take a solid sheet, add your glue, and then leave it on for a second and pull it up and then have a little spot, and then you could just stamp in that area sentiment or put your decoration. Okay. And then I'm just going to put this on, and I used foam tape on mine, like I said. And then I also added glue to this because you are gluing to all these textures. So I'm going to put that down. And then I have my embellishments over here that I cut out and used up my scraps. And I'm just going to glue these on. And I'm going to be healthy with the glue because you are, like I said, gluing to all those textures. Put the little mushroom in. I usually put a little piece of foam on the back of the top of it. Have a little acorn here. Glue it on. A leaf. Put another leaf there. One up here. Or actually that one could go on the top. I'm going to put a small piece of foam and glue. And I did ink all of these after I cut them out of my scraps. Same thing, you could decorate this one. Then I pretty much just took my crocodile and popped a hole in it. You could add an eyelet if you wanted. And then I have this twine that I got at the Dollar Tree. And all I did to do mine was run it through and then run it through the hole again, and then run it through the hole again, just to give it a little bit of decoration up here on top. And then I tied a very, very loose knot so that it don't actually form a knot. You can see they're not tied tight, and then just trimmed it off. Oh, and my other thing was I took my Distress Oxide and I inked the whole edge of the tag. So, and normally I would have done this before I added the sentiment, but that's okay. And of course it resistance. It has resistance where it's embossed. So there you have a beautiful fall mixed media tag. So if you guys want to win this one, all you have to do is leave me a comment below. Let me know if you're going to try this, if you've done it before, if you have any tips. I'm not a mixed media expert by any means. I just play and find what I like. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Come over and join me in my Facebook group and share what you're working on or what you created. So, until next time, bye y'all.